Hello everybody and welcome to PentaPERSPECTIVE of Fallout 4. Now a little bit of a warning before we start this video. This video will contain topics that you may find offensive, you may disagree with, you may find insulting, that I may be talking about one of your favorite games in the way that I will be, and you may find spoilers within this video. So if you are afraid of any of these things, I highly encourage you to stop it and click away. And now that they're gone, let's continue. This video is going to be unscripted, PentaPERSPECTIVE. This is a way that I figure I'm going to continue to do them. I'm going to just play the game and discuss what I feel about it during the time. So this may run a little long. It may run about 20 minutes, maybe a little more. I have no idea. I just have I have a list in front of me that I've been writing over the past 2 weeks, about what I think are the pros and cons of this game, and the cons list ended up being far bigger than I would have hoped for because, let's face it, is the game good? That's something we're going to be discussing over the next couple of minutes, but it's a matter of perspective. It is a matter of perspective, but this is only my opinion, and that's kind of why I want to stress that no matter what I say in this video, I'm not telling you to feel a certain way about this game. You might think it's the greatest game in the world, and that is up to you. I completely understand, and I will not argue that point with you. But I also have my opinion, and as a long-time Fallout fan, back since the first time I put Fallout 1 in and played it in 1998, when I was 8 years old, I have been a Fallout fan. So, what are we going to start with? Let's start with the game's numerous, and by numerous, I mean thousands of bugs, collision errors. The engine is old. The engine needs to be rehashed. It needs to be retired. It needs to be recreated. They need to make a new engine because the creation engine honestly has had enough. And we've known about these bugs and these errors for as long as I can remember. This type of stuff should just not happen. This is a behemoth. This is a behemoth super mutant that I killed shortly before I started recording, and I am sitting inside of his stomach. This is unacceptable. This, along with... Well, let's actually show you. To do this, I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to actually hop over to my captures. Of course, you can add me on Xbox Live if you want to. Fall gone. But anyway, let's hop over here. Let's hop over to my game clips. Where's my DVR? Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. No, that is what I wanted to do. I want to go to my captures, because I'm going to pop open my Xbox captures, because for some odd reason, Microsoft's DRM or what copyright issues don't allow you to download your own clips. Otherwise, I just add them in post. Let's just show you a couple of these clips, because I have taken over 100 clips of Fallout 4 in preparation for this video, of glitches and bugs. And for instance, you can see here on this video, this is the feral ghoul I killed a couple of days ago while playing, and he magically turned into a junkie and started glitching. I hit his arm off. It fell off, but he stayed there, shaking, glitching into the ground. These are the types of things that we cannot accept anymore. There is a notable bug in the game, if I can find it in here. There is a notable bug in the game where the character will be trapped in an elevator. Literally trapped in an elevator for minutes on end without being able to exit. And the character then has to reload the game. Like, no joke. reload the game, no matter how far beforehand it was. Here it is. This is as long as the Xbox will allow me to record a single video. I'm sitting in an elevator with dog meat for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. This video is 5 minutes. I was in that elevator for 16 minutes before I reloaded the game. I put the controller down, left my room, made coffee, drank the cup of coffee, went to the bathroom, came back in the bedroom, and I was still staring at dog meat in the elevator. Bethesda, this is unacceptable. You should not allow these things to happen in your game that force your player to lose game time. Not to mention the game crashes, which I will add here in post, somewhere on the screen, a screenshot, or rather a picture I took with my phone so I could put it in the video without having to bullshit with Microsoft, of my game file for 10 hours of the game. I lost 10 hours of the game because my files were corrupted. So I had to delete 10 hours of gameplay, and I haven't even honestly restarted. This is the first time I have started up Fallout 4. This is the first time I've started up Fallout 4 since then, because I rage quit, threw the controller on the ground, and I went and I played another game, because I could not bear the fact of 10 hours of my life literally being crushed in my hand and thrown in the trash. So as you can see, this is still playing in the background, and we got another, 3 minutes of me sitting in this elevator. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let's fast forward to about 4 minutes. 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Here I am. This is me on idle. This is me going to the bathroom and making coffee. Dog meat's just chilling. Like, I'm not the only person who's run into this. I have seen one of my personal favorite streamers, Carnage, while he was streaming Fallout 4, for 30,000 people had this happen, and he had to reload. Luckily, he's on the computer, on the PC, so all he has to do is F5 every 4 minutes, and he can save it. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And not only that, but everything else that happens in the game that just is where's another really good one? I'm going to try and find you guys the good ones. So, here we have a Brahmin sitting on top of my house. And that's really all I need to say. That's really all I need to say. A Brahmin sitting on top of my house. Bethesda knew about this shit. This is the type of stuff that when you have 16 people playtesting your game, you're going to know about. You are going to see this and say, that needs to be fixed. But they released the game knowing this shit is in there. They've known about this since Skyrim, because Skyrim had bugs and crashes all the time. We had mammoths flying up into the air. It's the same shit with this. For instance, my dad put a video up on his Xbox One earlier tonight when I'm recording this, of a vertibird flying slowly over him with the Brotherhood of Steel, and then literally like a lightning bolt flying into the ground 40 feet away and not even exploding. And it just disappeared. It was gone. It was gone. He went over there. It was gone completely. And it's not the only time that kind of stuff happens. I'm walking around the Commonwealth, and all of a sudden, like, a raider comes out of the ground. I've had it happen. A raider will appear out of the ground and one hit me, and one shot me. Like he was supposed to spawn there, but the game didn't let him spawn until I was in the area, and then he popped up and I was dead. It was just, it's those types of things. Littered with bugs, littered with crashes. I've had it crash dozens of times. Let's look at this one. This is one of my favorite ones because this showcases two things. Not only is the dialogue in Fallout 4 one of the worst dialogue systems in the world, but is the most buggy shits in the world. For instance, this teacher, during this quest, tells the children to say thank you. Again, it freezes up in dialogue. It stares at my character's face for 2 minutes. I have to reload. I can push every button on my controller. Nothing happens. I can do nothing except restart the game. And then lose all the progress up until that point. It was so bad that not only did I take that 30-second video where I was staring through a child's head for 2 seconds, but it took a continuous 30-second video of my character staring off into blank space just to emphasize the point that this should not happen. This should not be allowed. This is more than common. This is something that dozens of players have encountered. Dozens of players is something that isn't rare. That is a bug that should be noted during playtesting. That is something that people should know about before it gets released and addressed. But Bethesda refuses to fix these things. They have known about the dialogue bugs. They have known about the freezing, the crashing. The collision errors are nonsense. My character will randomly just walk through objects in the world that are physical objects. I've walked through cars. I've walked through characters. I've walked through buildings. I walked through the entire, what's the name of the store in Diamond City? The home plate. I walked through the building and ended up in the loading screen. Not even a joke. I walked through the building. I wish I took a video of it. I walked through the building. And as I walked through it, the textures of the background of the game became the please stand by screen. It was unacceptable. It was unbelievable that happened. Let's look at this one. This is almost the exact thing I was talking about. This is the please stand by screen behind a shelf. Completely not even part of the world. This isn't even part of the world. And if I step back, watch, I'll step back, turn into the background. Then I turn back over, back to the please stand by screen. But if I back away, it goes away. If I turn, it goes away. But if I turn just slightly in the right direction, there it is. There it is. Looking through a shelf, and we're at the please stand by screen. I can't... We're going to reach a point in time, people. We are going to reach a point in time where these things will not be passed off. They won't be swept under the rug because it's an open world game. I am so sick of that excuse. This was one of the most hyped up games of the year. It was one of the most anticipated titles since E3. It only got announced in June, and people were foaming at the mouth to play this game. Only to have dozens of copies sent back, dozens of tweets sent out, hundreds and thousands of tweets sent out, rather, of disappointment, myself included, yelling at Bethesda because how can you have been working on this game for more than 4 years? We know it was more than 4 years because Todd Howard himself said they were working on it before Skyrim. In fact, they were working on this no more than 3 months after New Vegas came out, which was 2009? Was New Vegas, I think? 2010, maybe? That's at the very least 5 years they've been working on this game. There are indie games that are developed in under 40 days that have come out in a better state than this. So, aside from the millions and thousands and just unacceptable bugs that are in this game that we cannot pass by anymore, we cannot continue giving these developers an excuse no matter how big they are. No matter how large and thick our nostalgia goggles are, we as gamers and we as a community can no longer tell them it's okay to have these things because it's open world. That's like people saying that Call of Duty can stay the same every year because, well, it's only a shooter. No, you still need to change the game. You still need to affect the player in different ways. I don't care if it's adding a new game mode. I don't care if it's adding something other than fetch quests. I don't care, but we want something different. Otherwise, we'll play the game from last year. We can't allow them to do this anymore. And the only way we can't allow them to do this anymore is to not give it a 10 out of 10 because it has fallen on the fucking case. This game is not a 10 out of 10. This game is far from a 10 out of 10. And so let's continue. Let's continue. Let's discuss something different because I could go on about bugs and crashes for the rest of the game. Like, for instance, you just saw Kate freak out next to that car because of collision physics. Insane collision physics. So let's move on. Let's bounce back and forth. I'm going to do a format where I talk about something really bad and then talk about something good and then talk about something bad. It'll make the bad things seem less asshole-like. So what's the next thing I want to talk about? Let's talk about the combat. The improvements in combat in Fallout 4, however, are superb compared to the last games. It feels more like a modern FPS than an RPG, which is shitty because it is an RPG game. Or role-playing game, not RPG game, role-playing game. But because it adapted those first-person shooter kind of controls and mechanics, it feels a lot better than previous games, because just because it's a role-playing game doesn't excuse it from having terrible combat. You still need good combat, and this has great combat. The shooting has improved tenfold over the previous games. And we're going to show that off in just a minute, because we're right outside of a raider outpost where we have a guy standing there in power armor. And you can see him up there. If he comes by again, you can see him right there. And you can see VATS is so well done now. It's in slow motion instead of stopped. It's no longer a freeze frame, which I think is much better, because the slow motion creates a more tense situation when you have a feral ghoul running at your face, and you're sitting in VATS and you're like, oh god, oh god, oh god, I gotta hit him, I gotta hit him, I gotta hit him. And it creates the ambition, it creates that tension that you're like, oh, I gotta do this. Rather than just making you say, oh, well, I can go into VATS and then just stop and pause and walk out of the room. No longer, because VATS is in slow motion. It's very slow, but those guys are still moving, they're still running at you, and you still take damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to quick save, hope it doesn't corrupt, and then we're going to shoot him in the head. And as you can see, the iron sights in this game are so well improved. The shooting itself is so much better than previous games. Just in general, the shooting itself is so much better. And that also gets helped because of the upgraded, but the ability to craft your own weapons and stuff. So, another thing that's really superbly improved in this game is looting. One of the most important things in a Fallout game is the looting. And in this one, no longer do you have to open all these containers. It pops up right there, and it allows you to take its contents without having to go through menus after menus after menus. All you have to do is walk up to something and say, oh, well, I guess I can take this. I guess I can loot from this. So I walk up to this ammo box. It says ammo box. And I can just take all the ammo out of it. You can still open it and put stuff in if you want to, but you no longer have to do that. You no longer are forced to do that. I honestly wish I could find an area, a piece of combat that I wouldn't do stupendous at, but apparently I have a really powerful set of guns. So it's going to be really hard for me to find combat that's going to pose an issue. So what are we going to talk about next? Well, let's accent the fact that yes, it does feel like a first-person shooter more than a role-playing game, and a lot of people are up in arms about the fact that it's Fallout feels more like Call of Duty than it feels like Fallout, and I agree and disagree with that. I agree because it does feel like more of a shooter. It feels like a shooter with an open world, yes. But at the same time, it still feels like Fallout, because Fallout will always be Fallout. And what Fallout is, the definition of Fallout as far as a game series goes, is obviously shitty bugs and collision graphics, but also an open world that is completely filled with content for your exploration. Like, I can't jump here. Apparently I can no longer jump up. There we go. Can I get up there? I should be able to. I guess we can't. I guess we can't get up there anymore. I used to be able to get up here. I'm going to give it a couple more tries. That was a bad try. We're done. That's it. Anyway. It does feel like more of a shooter, but when did that become such a bad thing? Because realistically, the only thing that feels like quote-unquote a shooter about it is the combat. Everything else still feels more like a Fallout game. And that brings me to actually almost segues perfectly into my next topic that I want to talk about, which is the difficulty is what I meant. Is the difficulty. And this is simultaneously a bad point and a good point, because the difficulty, like I can stand here and get my ass beaten by these ghouls, and they don't do very much damage. And I'm playing on the hardest difficulty. And obviously I have really nice guns and I can just shoot them and they're dead. But I'm playing on the hardest difficulty. I am playing on survival difficulty. I'm playing on survival difficulty. That's supposed to be off. I don't remember when that gets... Oh no, I turned that on for... But yeah, the survival difficulty is basically more legendaries appear and you're still going to have a bitch of a time. Like, that's really the only big thing about it. It's not that hard. It is not that hard. Like, people think that survival's, oh, it's going to be so tough because it's survival difficulty, and, well, you don't really... Wait a second. Trade with me. Oh, this is such... Trade with me. I want to put my stuff in you. These people want to watch this video, and all I'm doing is walking around super slow because I picked up power armor. Anyway, what I mean about the survival difficulty is it should be a lot harder than it is, and so I made it a lot harder by turning off my autosaves and disabling my Pip-Boy save, or disabling my fast travel saves, and disabling this and the other thing. And so I had to make it harder than it originally was because it wasn't that hard. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to that building. And of course I missed. So, survival difficulty. By definition, survival difficulty is difficulty level affects damage and the chance of legendary enemies. Survival difficulty also dramatically slows the rate of healing, which is true. Your rate of healing, if I use my stim pack right now, you'll be able to see, even at medic level 3, that's as fast as it heals. So you have to find cover, and you have to wait for it to heal up, and you have to peek out of cover if you want to. It's pretty rough, but aside from slowly healing and more legendaries, that's the only difference. That's the only difference. There's not anything else. It's just that. And that's not that much. So I think they could have done a lot more with the difficulty, and you could blame it on the fact that, well, it's still just a mainstream game, so they were trying to make it easy because they got to appeal to more people. I'm like, no, that's not at all how it works. How difficulty works is a character, or not a character, a player choosing the difficulty they want to play on because they want to play on a harder difficulty or an easier difficulty. It has nothing to do with selling it to the masses and having them choose, a difficulty because they're told to. No. Put a really stupid fucking hardcore difficulty in the game, and only the people that want to do it will do it. Put a really easy difficulty in the game, and people will only do it because they want to do it. That's what difficulties are for. It's the player's choice. And survival difficulty is not that hard. Legendaries are nice. That's probably... I'll just move on. That's a good next point. Legendaries are nice. Legendaries are a rare type of creature. Obviously not rare in survival. I run across them all the time. But they're a rare type of creature. Alternate version of the creatures you normally run into, and they take a hell of a lot more of a beating and do a lot more of a beating on you, but most of the time, I won't say all the time because that's another bug in the game, they're supposed to always drop a rare legendary item, which is a special type of item that has a modifier on it, and they don't drop them all the time. I've run into several of them that don't have any inventory on them because they were bugged. But legendaries themselves are really cool. It's an amazing idea. I'm so glad they decided to do it again and carry it over from New Vegas and even add onto it. They gave it even more of a meaning because fighting a legendary is a risk versus reward kind of thing. I got that right away. I was going to hack it the smart way. So, yeah, legendary, survival difficulty and legendaries coincide with one another, but legendaries are almost worth it, not a lot, or they're not worth it all of the time is what I mean to say, because, you know, you'll run into ones that don't have anything on them, and you'll also run into legendaries that have a repeat item on them, which I've also come across, which is silly, and it's not something you should normally complain about, because that's just the perks of having a randomized system. But I felt kind of weird going out of my way fighting a legendary, and, you know, on survival difficulty I fight them all the time, literally, but running into legendary and it's like, oh, I got another freaking, you know, synth, you know, stamina, or AP raising piece of armor that I'm not going to wear. Oh, I got another piece of leg armor that does more damage against ghouls. Oh, it's just, you come across a lot of duplicates. So they could add more modifiers in, but for right now, legendaries and the legendary items you get are completely worthwhile, and I will not complain about them because, well, most of my good armor and good weapons come from legendary items and stuff. So, okay, and the next thing I want to discuss is the world. This is a big deal amongst the community right now, and a lot of people are complaining about the size of the world and saying that the world map is too small. And, well, in size, it is really small. It's about a quarter of the size of Skyrim. It's very small. But, and this is something that a lot of people aren't giving it credit for, the world of Fallout 4, while being that small, is brimming with content. There is so many things in this world map. Let's look at the world map real quick. The world map, you start out here, and within the first 10 hours of the game, I pretty much uncovered everything in this entire corner. The world map is only this big. And when you think about probably about a third of that being water that you can't explore, it's very small. And there's not very many locations up here. But then when you think about all the unmarked locations that are in there, which are one of the best parts of the entire Fallout series, are the unmarked locations that you come across that it benefits from not fast traveling anywhere, which I almost never fast travel because I find so many things just hidden away in the map that you would never expect. And it's just like, they all have their own little story, whether it's a girl who was testing radiation on herself and ended up dying because she did it too much and didn't get medical attention, or a girl who was a refugee because she ended up turning out to be gay, which was a very touchy topic for the game to put in there, but they decided to put it as an unmarked location because it just worked. And so that kind of worked a little bit, and it's those kinds of areas that are really beneficial for not fast traveling. But the world itself is very small, and it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of locations, but then you get to downtown Boston, and you realize that almost every 10 feet you walk in downtown Boston, there's another area to explore. For instance, this is without me going. A lot of the locations on my map I haven't even been in. They'll say cleared if you cleared them within the last 30 game days, but then they reset, which is one of my biggest gripes with the game, is that they reset, but they don't tell you that it has been previously cleared. So for instance, the Weston Water Treatment Plant, I've been in and I've cleared and killed everything. But in like 30 game days, that'll not say cleared anymore, and I might forget that I've ever been there, and be like, no, let's go over there and check that out. And then I'll get there and I'll be like, kind of get deja vu, like, I think I've been here before. But, you know, it's still a very full map. There's a lot of content in this map. And so when people say, oh, it's just a small map, then you gotta tell them, yeah, but there's a lot of stuff in that map. Like, Skyrim was huge, but there wasn't a ton of stuff in Skyrim. Like, the world map was huge, but everything had such a big distance between it. And I think that benefited Skyrim, because the world was supposed to feel vast and empty, because it was a tundra. And so the world map is, yeah, it's small, but it's so full of content, and it's far denser in locations than previous titles. The next thing. Even This one's gonna be hard to explain. This would be very hard to explain because people are gonna get mad at me, and that's fine. Fuck it. One of the worst offenses this game has committed on the players isn't the perk system. It's the fact that they made the perk system your leveling system. You are no longer reliant on stats. There is no small guns, energy guns, medicine stats. Everything is based off of perks. So if you check out, I have special stats still, but you can see I don't have any regular stats. Oh no, where are my stats? Everything is based off of perks. These are individual things you can level up when you level up, and they are based off of this perk chart. Shut up, phone. They are based off of this perk chart. Every special stat has 10 levels worth of perks underneath it, progressively getting more and more unquote special as they go along. So the more powerful ones are towards the bottom, technically. I disagree with that. I find some of the ones at the top much more useful than the ones at the bottom, but the point remains the same. It's all based off of perks. Every level, you get one perk point, and you can put it in any of these perks you want. The problem with that is that they don't show you this chart before you choose your special stats. So, hundreds of gamers, some of my best friends playing this game, some of my associates playing this game, some of my fellow YouTubers playing this game and streamers playing this game, my own dad went off of Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, or Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 1 and 2's logic. They went off of, well, this is what I used to do in old Fallout games, so I'll do this again. This play style and this special stat lineup worked for me in these games, and I have watched countless people and then get to their perk screen and say, excuse me? I only put 2 points in endurance, and a lot of these I want. And then you have to spend 5, 6, 7 levels not even getting your good perks, and instead putting them into your special stats because the game didn't show you this before making you decide on your special stats. One of the biggest offenses, because it's the most crucial part of the game, is your perk system, because that's what makes your character better. So the fact that they didn't say, okay, these are the perks you're going to get, or show you the perks chart and say, okay, now choose your special stats, and then you can assign them appropriately. Like, for instance, I went off of old Fallout logic. I went off of a perception, charisma, and intelligence and agility build. So I put 5 or 6 points into perception, I put 6 points into charisma, 6 points into intelligence, and 6 points into agility, and then 3, 2, and 2 into luck, endurance, and strength, respectively. Only to find out that charisma is the most useless stat in the entire game. It doesn't do anything. In fact, most of the perks for this are not useful. Almost every perk here, for my playstyle, for how I play Fallout, is completely pointless. So I have 6, at the very most 3 perks, or skill points, special points, that I could have used elsewhere, like luck, which happens to be the most important stat in the game. Let's just talk about charisma for a second, and this will segue into my other bitching part of the game, which is the dialogue. The only thing that affects dialogue in the entire game is luck and charisma. Let me repeat that. This is a Fallout game that doesn't require or rely on any other stats in the game for dialogue. You only can succeed at charisma, quote-unquote, dialogue checks and persuasion checks because of your charisma stat and your luck stat. And to punch that point home, it's still a dice roll at 10. You can have your charisma maxed out at 10, and it's still a dice roll on dialogue checks. Like, that's just not acceptable to me. Especially because you don't tell your fans and your customers beforehand. You don't tell the player that this is very important or this isn't very important. And so I went off of my previous Fallout games build, and I hated it from the second. I had to spend 3 or 4 perks, or 3 or 4 levels worth of points into intelligence. I had to spend 2 levels of points worth into strength, and it was a lot of catching up because charisma was pointless to me. And so I wish they would have showed you the perk system before making you choose your special stats. Otherwise, the perk system is completely flawless to me. It's a great way to do your characters. The perks themselves are wonderful. Each of them are animated with their own little animation. And I like the way it's laid out. It was very confusing for a lot of players. A lot of people didn't know they could go down or what they had access to because it doesn't explain it to you. The other part of the game that you can complain about is the game has almost zero training. There are parts of this game, vital parts of this game, that don't get explained to you. Like there's cover shooting. If you're hiding behind a wall and you hit your trigger to aim, your character will come out of cover and aim. They don't tell you that. That's not anywhere in the game. You have this entire help section, yes, but how many people do you know that actually go through this and read everything in here? This is the kind of stuff, this is the reason we used to have manuals, is so you would have all this stuff in the manual and you could read through it. Anyway. Yeah, I dislike that they didn't show you the perks before choosing the special stats, but the perk system itself is still very fluid and easy to use. And yeah, to emphasize, although the many major stats are far weaker in the metagame than others, charisma and strength are weak, while I think perception and luck are just overpowered as shit. Intelligence is just the same. Intelligence is still a great stat, but I think that always will be in Fallout. Alright, so we went over the engine, we went over the bugs, we went over the fighting system, we went over the perks, we went over how I disliked the difficulty, we went over disliking the perk system. So, and we went over the dialogue. And I'm going to actually see if I can show you. Like, this is your dialogue system. This is how your dialogue system is. You have 4 options. They went Dragon Age, they went BioWare, and they did it worse than BioWare. Like, none of your dialogue options in this game mean anything. None of your dialogue options mean anything. For instance, if I were to talk to a random NPC, and it was the middle of a story quest, and they were yelling at me, I would have like a sarcastic answer, I would have a yes, a no, and a good guy and a bad guy answer, and then I would have a more information answer. And every single one of them goes to the same outcome. There is no karma system. There is no effect of whether or not you were a good guy or a bad guy. You can steal, rob, murder, and just cause riots and get drunk in this game, and there's no karma system to make you feel bad for it. So I can be a complete dick to everybody in the entire game, and I will still get the same outcome as everybody else, which is complete bullshit. So the dialogue system, not counting the freezes during dialogue half the time, the dialogue system is complete shit. But let's talk about the story a little bit. Okay, so this is where the spoilers are going to start coming in, because I'm going to ruin the opening of the game. If some of you haven't played Fallout 4 by now, and you are very leery about spoilers, I suggest you turn away, because the opening of the game is bullshit. The opening of the game is the weakest opening I've seen in an RPG in a long time. Because, well, let's be honest here. You were in the game for less than 10 minutes, and they expected you to care that your wife died and your son got kidnapped? In a Fallout game, they expect you to care and cry and weep because your son got kidnapped that you haven't known for more than 10 minutes? I didn't give a shit about that little punk. I didn't care that my wife died. I just... Let's take out my shotgun, because my shotgun's awesome. So, like, they expected me to care about a person I had never met before, and who I hadn't spent the whole game with. And it was embarrassing, because it's like, I can't care about this person. I don't know them. You know, this isn't Aerith. This isn't somebody that you've spent the entire game with, and then they get taken out from under your wings, and you you feel that. You feel that in your chest. These are people that it feels just like a prologue. It's like, okay, son got kidnapped. Okay, wife got killed. All right, let's go. Let's go explore the world. And that's the biggest offender of it, is because in a game like Fallout, that kind of stuff doesn't belong. Because, at least not as the main purpose of the game, because everybody knows that what do people do in Fallout? They run around, they explore, and they collect shit. That's what people do in Fallout. So why in a game that encourages you to not follow any direct path do they put such a huge plot point in there? It takes you out of the immersion right away, because it's like, oh no, my son got kidnapped. We gotta go rescue him. Oh, look, a shiny thing. Let's go find that. It takes you out of the immersion. It makes it feel less important. And let's face it, I got like 100 hours into the game and I haven't even given a shit about my son yet. Not even the slightest. Not even in the slightest. I haven't done any of the main story really. I just didn't really care. And so the opening of the game fell flat on its face. Flat on its face. Yeah, let's talk about the fetch quests. Let's talk about the fetch quests. Let's go back to a settlement real quick. I don't like fast traveling usually, but we're gonna fast travel real quick just to see. Well, actually, let's go to my quests. How many of these are fetch quests? Clear Jamaica Plain. That's a fetch quest. That was a fetch quest. That's technically a fetch. That's more of an exploration quest. I'll let it get away. And almost all of these are fetch quests. Almost everything in here is a fetch quest, because what does Fallout, or what does Bethesda do once again? They fill this vast, open, gorgeous world brimming with content with go find this, go kill this mechanics. Fetch quests are at the point now where if they aren't involved and engaging, nobody's going to care about them. And that's exactly where this game sits. A good 90% of the quests that I've done in this game, I didn't care about. Because it was a go here, kill this fetch quest. And there's going to become a time where you're going to realize that those things don't fly anymore. Especially with Witcher 3 and Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain, and now with Xenosaga coming out, or Xenogears coming out. Xenosaga? Xenoblade, that's it. There's so many Xenos. Xenoblade X coming out. Like, there's so many games that make even the most mundane of fetch quests seem so important. Witcher 3 is a perfect example of that. Witcher is filled to the brim with content, and a good chunk of them are fetch quests, but every single one of them feels important. Because it's not just, oh, go find my locket, here's your reward. It's go find my locket, and then figure out who took my locket, why they took my locket, and there's a whole backstory behind it. Is this Covenant? This is Covenant. I already defeated these turrets. They should be gone. I hate how things reappear in this game. So, fetch quests. And now that we know there's DLC for the game coming out, so how much of that DLC is going to be filled with fetch quests, I wonder. I'm very curious to see when they finally release the DLC for this game, how much of it is going to be fetch quests, because I guarantee there's going to be a good chunk of it. Alright, so we've talked about pretty much everything I wanted to cover. So, let's go down the list of the pros, the cons, and what Scott Pentahybrid, rather, thinks about Fallout 4. I don't know how to put this, but let's go through the good. What are the good things? What, in my eyes, in the Penta perspective, if you will, of this game, what are the good things? The graphics are nice for Fallout. For modern day games, they're utter shit. But for Fallout, coming from New Vegas and Fallout 3, Fallout 4 looks pretty good. It looks pretty good, especially with the lighting engine and all that stuff. It does have a certain charm, and it makes the world of the Commonwealth feel alive. The improved VAT system and the combat system are so much better than previous games. And I can only imagine where they're going to go from here, because the VAT system, the slow motion VAT system, and the new combat shooting, the new shooting mechanics and all that stuff, it feels a lot more like a shooter, which it should. The shooting mechanics in the game should feel like a shooter, because shooters do them well, because that's what they're supposed to do. The wonderful unmarked locations in the vast map, coming across places like this that aren't even on the map, but they just feel so good to come across. What are these guys? Oh my god. Oh my god. Like this. This isn't an unmarked location, but this is definitely something that I want to touch. Oh god. We talked about the legendaries. That's definitely a plus. So where's that legendary? Let's actually show you, because I can show you this now. Legendary. Look at that. It's the forever spinning brain. I know there was a legendary somewhere. Son of a bitch. I know there was... Take all his stuff. Feral Grew Roamer. Am I seeing things, or was there actually a legendary? There was a legendary. I could have swore. I don't know. Either way, yeah, we talked about the unmarked locations and how just great they feel. Like, just to come across the building and be like, "Aw, this happened. Aw, this happened." Or just, "Oh, there he is." See, and now I got the punishing metal left arm, because he's a legendary and he drops this. Reflects 10% of melee damage back on an attacker. I can't count on both of my hands how many times I've come across that specific modifier, because they repeat quite often. And that stuff just gets thrown in a locker or sold. Survival difficulty, that one teeters on the line between good or bad, because it's not hard, but the idea of the legendaries appearing so much more often is quite cool. And so I put it under the good column, because I do like the idea of adding that enhanced difficulty. And the final good fact, because we'll do 5 of each, why not? The final good part of the game is the perk system. I love the perk-based leveling system. I just wish they would have told you beforehand what you were looking to get into. But as a whole, just on the surface, or not just on the surface, but as a whole, the perk-based leveling system is quite awesome. It's really surprising to see that they decided to do that rather than based around stats. I'm not going to discuss the crafting system as a good or bad thing, because honestly, it's just something that they added in the game. It's not something that I'm super proud that they put in, because, well, it's no different than, crafting and building the shish kebab and the rocket launcher and stuff in Fallout 3, or the bullet making in Fallout New Vegas, which, for instance, let me just say real quick before I get to the bad stuff, how the hell are you allowing your characters to modify a sniper into this wicked cool recon scope piece of just godly weaponry, but you won't let us craft bullets? You won't let us make ammo. I don't understand that. I hope that gets patched in or put in with the DLC, because that's just something that needs to be in here if you're allowing us to do all this other stuff. And we're coming full circle now. We have gone in a complete circle around this entire area. And that's just one small area of the game. So, now let's recap on the bad. Bugs, performance issues, crashes, everywhere. Every single inch of this game is littered with them. And it's inexcusable. It should be addressed, and it should just not be something that we allow to happen any longer. Collision physics have issues, and we cannot... It's unacceptable, and I'll leave it at that. It's just not something that we need to have happen anymore, because it's embarrassing spending $60 on a game that has the issues that have been known for 10 years. And like I mentioned earlier, the pre-perk special system, I wish they would have told you what your perks were before you chose your special stats. It saved a lot of people the hassle of choosing wrong, pretty much, and wasting levels. Wasting time, wasting levels. It's eh. Underwhelming opening. The introduction to the game was just poorly done. They can't expect characters to be loved and cherished and respected and, you know, admired or whatever adjective you want to use when you've only known them for a couple minutes. Like, that's just not how modern stuff works. Like, we didn't care about Jack and Kate because they were just a good couple. We cared about them because we watched them in that movie for 2 freaking hours. So, if you're going to plan on putting a huge storyline in a game, don't do it in a game that encourages you to not focus on that and walk around, please. Because I can guarantee 90% of people who picked up Fallout 4 did not go after Sean right away. Let's face it. We went to the shiny stuff. Oh, where is that fusion core? Anyway, next bad thing is the cash-in or fetch quests. We need to start either eliminating fetch quests or make them more interesting. I would opt for making them more interesting, because it's not like I don't want to go save the person's daughter. It's not like I don't want to go find their locket in the dungeon, because it allows me to go to the dungeon. I just wish you would make me care more about it. Instead of just telling me, oh, you gotta go get this because, well, we needed stuff to put in the game. That's just not... No, it's just not something that I care about doing. And then, of course, the smaller map than we expected. It was a very small map, and we didn't expect it to be this small. Although it's filled with content, it's still very small. You can walk across the entire map from corner to corner in under 40 minutes. It's pretty small, considering Witcher 3, just the White Orchard map, just the opening White Orchard map, you can walk across from corner to corner in about 37 or 38 minutes. So, just one of Witcher 3's areas was bigger. And as far as unmarked locations go, how about this Easter egg? This Tremors Easter egg is quite funny, because this is the Bert character from Tremors inside of his bulldozer with his chair right here. So, with that Easter egg, I'm going to close this video out by giving it the score that the people wanting a score came to get. What does PentaHybrid think Fallout 4 would get on a 1 to 10 scale if I were IGN or Kotaku or any of the other reviewing sites? What would I give Fallout 4? Well, if I'm being completely honest here, the experience was great, but the game itself is complete disappointment. Absolutely flawed. Should not have been released in the state it's in. We cannot let these things happen anymore. And though the game was fun and it sucked the time out of me, I lost more time being mad than I spent having fun. And so, with that, guys, I'm going to give Fallout 4 a 6.5 out of 10. I cannot go any higher. Maybe when the DLC and the patches come out, it'll earn a little bit more respect from me, but I cannot give this game any higher than a 6.5 if I were to give it a score, because it's just... I just can't. It doesn't feel right because of the issues and because of the glaring problems and just the lack of player player involvement in the game. I'm getting shot at by gamma weapons? What? And now I glitched out and died. Alright guys, let's end this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like. And of course, comment down below letting me know what you thought. And if you want me to continue doing PentaPERSPECTIVEs like this. And as always, keep on gaming. And I will catch you later. Bye-bye.